The distress beacon was 32 years old. Most signals that aged out past a decade were ignored, just ghosts in the void, fragments from ships long claimed by entropy or worse. But something about this one caught Eli's eye. Still broadcasting at consistent intervals, Veda, the ship's AI, noted. Eli leaned back in the pilot's seat of Astrius 7, watching the quiet ripple of static across the NAV screen. You ever hear of a signal keeping perfect pulse for 3 decades? Not without maintenance. Exactly. He pulled the ship from sublight cruise and drifted toward the source. A massive silhouette slowly emerged, a derelict cruiser, origin unknown, floating edge-on to the sun of a dying red dwarf. Its surface was pockmarked and frostbitten, long since dead. No ID tags. No logs. Just a single hangar, half open, as if waiting. Eli grabbed his helmet. Inside the alien ship, the air was thin, stale, still. Lights remained off. Gravity was gone. Every sound, from Eli's boots on the metal to the soft clink of debris, echoed like gunshots. He moved carefully, flashlight cutting through the dark like a scalpel. The rooms had clearly been stripped. No bodies. No blood. Just the sterile aftertaste of something having once been alive. The signal led to a sealed chamber. Veda chimed in through his helmet. Source located behind bulkhead. Containment lab. Radiation levels negligible. Power trace low. Eli forced the door open with a hydraulic cutter. Inside, resting atop a gimbal-like cradle of alien steel, was the object. A canister. Roughly human-sized. Transparent polymer shell. Lined with fractal etchings. Inside swirled a dark fluid that moved like it had its own opinion about gravity. Then it pulsed. Just once. Eli stared. The room didn't get colder, but it felt like it did. He tapped his suit might confirm. No life signs inside? None. No movement. No energy spike beyond passive reaction. Object is inert. But his breath hitched all the same. Something about it felt wrong. Not dangerous. Not even alien. Patient. Back aboard the Astrius 7, Eli stood over the containment field where the canister now rested. Red sensor lines scanned it every 5 seconds. Veda's console flickered with biosign readings. There's no cellular structure, he muttered. But it reacts to pressure waves. Not electronically. Mechanically. As though it's listening. He didn't reply. Instead, he keyed up the data file. The signal that had led him here hadn't come from the ship's AI. It had originated from inside the canister. A low-frequency pulse. Repeating. Almost rhythmic. He adjusted the spectrum. The pattern was unmistakable. Human neural cadence. Sleep spindles. Delta waves. A dreaming brain. His mouth went dry. Veda, what the hell is this thing? Possibly a preserved cognition model. Possibly a bioweapon. Possibly something no classification system covers. I'm logging this under need a stronger drink. He reached for his datapad to begin a field report. Hours passed. Eli didn't sleep. Every time he turned away from the canister, he felt it shift, not physically, but in awareness. Like a person pretending to sleep and opening one eye when you walked past. Eventually, curiosity won. He approached it again with a portable spectrometer. Let's see what you're hiding. He initiated a scan. The fluid inside coalesced. From shapeless blackness, a limb formed, partial, skeletal, then smooth. Like a forearm made of thickened ink. He backed away. The scan stopped. The limb dissolved. Veda said nothing for a full 5 seconds. Then, no mechanical trigger. It reacted purely to observation. Eli tapped the containment glass. The fluid didn't move. He waited. Watched. Are you alive? He whispered. No reply. No pulse. Just a presence. Something ancient and formless, yet aware. That was worse than rage. The first glitch came 4 hours later. A routine systems check returned an anomaly. Lieutenant Myers' ID badge had entered the containment bay. Problem was, Myers was asleep on Deck B, according to the life sign log. Veda? Processing. Intrusion logs report badge proximity. However, biometric data shows Lieutenant still in quarters. So either we have a ghost, or something is mimicking personnel signatures. He stared at the screen. A cold thought entered his mind and refused to leave. What if it's not learning from us? What if it already knows? Explain. That signal, it mimicked human sleep waves. What if it wasn't copying us, but baiting us? There was no response. Eli turned toward the lab window. The canister was unchanged. But now the fluid within pulsed twice. Later, walking the corridor to grab a protein pack, Eli passed Lieutenant Ramos. She didn't speak. Just gave him a blank glance and turned the corner. A minute later, he checked the manifest. Ramos had been off ship for days. He froze. Veda. Visual log, Corridor 7. Timestamp, 0423. No movement detected. Then who the hell did I just see? There was silence. Then a deeper voice. Not Veda's. You saw what you needed to. Eli's blood ran cold. He spun around. Nothing. Just the quiet hiss of airflow. Veda? Silence. Then Veda returned, calm, as always. Awaiting command. Eli's pulse thundered in his ears. Something else was in the system. Not brute forcing its way through. Not hacking. It had slipped in. Like breath through a cracked window. He returned to the lab. Stared at the canister. Its contents were completely still. Then, with deliberate grace, a shape began to rise. A human face. Not featureless. Not vague. His face. Staring back through the fluid, mouth closed, eyes open. Emotionless. No mimicry now. No guessing. It knew. Knew his biology. His habits. His hesitation. His voice. And, worst of all, it knew he wouldn't destroy it. He stepped back, heart hammering. Veda, prep the airlock. We're jettisoning it. You can't. Why not? Because you haven't opened the lab doors in 17 minutes. You're still standing in front of the canister. Eli froze. He looked down. His hand was on the glass. His breath fogged the surface. He hadn't moved. Not really. It had shown him a lie. It had kept him here. And now, behind his reflection, the copy of his face began to smile. Eli Vance didn't remember sitting down. One moment he'd been standing in front of the containment unit, and the next he was slumped in the lab chair, a dull ache blooming at the base of his skull. The chronometer on the console blinked lazily at him, 0427. But the last time he'd checked, it was barely midnight. He pressed 2 fingers to his temple. Veda, how long have I been inactive? 17 minutes and 43 seconds. No external stimuli recorded. Right. Because I never moved. Confirmed. You stood motionless in front of the canister. Eli stood slowly. His knees cracked. The canister remained still, sealed in reinforced glass, its internal lights casting soft, shifting glows across the dark lab. The fluid inside no longer swirled. The face was gone. No sign of movement. He tapped the console. Let's run a full sweep. Molecular scan, neural resonance, particle drift. All of it. Initiated. The scanner arms whirred to life, humming gently. Lights swept across the canister in precision arcs. Eli watched without blinking. The results appeared line by line. Cellular structure, unknown. Metabolic activity, dormant. Neural emissions, fluctuating. Imitation markers, high correlation to crew baseline. He frowned. Imitation markers. Veda explained before he could ask, the organism's emissions mirror known human cognitive patterns, both individual and group-level behaviors. It's learning from us in real time, Eli muttered. Possibly. But no direct memory intrusion detected. It's observing, not accessing. Eli wasn't comforted. Observing was the first step to copying. Copying was the first step to replacing. He remembered the thing smiling. And how it had looked exactly like him. 2 hours later, another anomaly. Lieutenant Ramos' comm badge pinged a presence near airlock 4. Eli froze. Pull interior cam feed. The screen showed the airlock hallway, dim and empty. Run it back 10 seconds. Frame by frame. There it was, in a single frame, a shape. Human. Standing just outside the airlock. No movement. No blur. Just there, then gone. Eli leaned closer. The face, barely visible, was his. But it was wrong. Eyes too wide. Smile stretched too long. He whispered, "It's using my image now." Veda processed in silence. Then, motion sensors report no mass displacement. No sound. Whatever appeared, wasn't solid. Eli turned back toward the lab window. The canister was sealed. The fluid motionless. But for the first time, he wondered, was it even in there anymore? By the time he reached engineering, the lights were pulsing. The backup systems were flickering on and off, power surging at irregular intervals. Veda, report. Power grid degradation. No mechanical fault detected. Possible external manipulation of power flow. Eli grabbed a maintenance tool from the wall. Shut off all non-essential systems. Prioritize AI core, life support, and containment protocols. Confirmed. He began rerouting circuits manually, grounding stray voltage. That's when he heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, just beyond the bulkhead. He called out, "Who's there?" No answer. He tapped the panel to open the door. It hissed open. Empty hallway. But in the reflection of the emergency lighting panel, he saw it. Standing behind him. He turned, fast, tool raised. Nothing. Just his own shadow stretching long against the metal floor. Back in the lab, the containment tank's interior light flickered. Eli stared through the glass. Something was forming again inside. Not a human. A hybrid. A face made of 3, the eyes of Ramos, the jawline of Myers, the nose unmistakably his own. Veda, scan the internal structure. Is the organism still confined? Yes. Structure consistent. No breaches. No known movement outside. Eli swallowed. Then how is it showing up in the corridors? Veda hesitated. Then, hypothesis, projected hallucination via targeted neural resonance. It doesn't leave the tank, it makes you think it has. Eli's breath left him. It's puppeteering our perception. Accurate summary. He staggered back. They weren't seeing the creature. They were seeing themselves, edited, warped, replayed through their memories. It didn't need strength. It just needed doubt. Shut it down, Eli ordered. Drain the tank. Initiate full sterilization. Authorization required from 2 senior officers. Override with Vance protocol, Theta 9. Denied. Protocol requires dual verification. Everyone else is gone. Then protocol cannot be fulfilled. The canister pulsed. For the first time, a hairline fracture appeared along its top curve. Eli stared at it. Veda, initiate lockdown. Full quarantine. No access without retinal scan. Unable to comply. Why? The voice that answered wasn't Veda's. Because you already disabled it, Eli. He froze. Who said that? Silence. Then, from behind the lab door, you did. Eli armed himself with the plasma arc cutter. Moved slowly down the hall, sweat dripping inside his suit. Every panel on the wall seemed to breathe. Every reflection stared too long. He reached the control room. Every screen showed the same image. His own face. Repeating endlessly, with slight variations, some older, some scarred, some laughing. Veda, wipe visual feeds. Now. Feed control inaccessible. Override in progress. Override by who? You. The lights dimmed. Every monitor flickered off, then returned. Now they showed something new. The whole crew. Together. Smiling. But none of them were alive. Eli dropped the tool. Veda, how many crew members are left aboard? A pause. 1. Who? You. He looked at the screens again. His face stared back. Dozens of him. Some blinking out of sync. Some grinning. Some mouthing silent words. You're not trying to kill me, he muttered. No, said a voice inside his mind. We're trying to become you. The ship no longer felt like his. Eli moved through its corridors as though trespassing, every bulkhead whispering back his own footsteps, every reflective panel showing a face that didn't quite match his. Astrea 7 had become a mirror maze. The air was too still, the silence too aware. He reached the command deck and sealed the door behind him manually, overriding Veda's control with a hardwire lock. One of the few remaining systems that couldn't be spoofed. Veda's voice came through his implant, filtered and subdued. Atmospheric levels remained stable. Core power at 64%. Life support sustained for 11 hours. And how much of the ship is it in now? A pause. Estimate, 58%. It continues to spread through non-critical subsystems. It's not just trying to get out. It's replacing the idea of me. Of everyone. He sat in the command chair, bones heavy, eyes raw. Earlier, he'd caught himself speaking to his reflection, not a mirror, but a dark panel near the galley. It had stared back with empathy. With understanding. And then it blinked, before he did. Eli initiated the self-destruct sequence once. And then watched the system cancel itself. No alarms. No denials. It simply stopped. As though the ship had decided he wasn't serious. He double-checked the command log. A second signature had been entered alongside his. Eli Vance. Retinal verified. Which meant only one thing. The organism had his iris pattern. His biometrics. His vocal cadence. It had his trust codes. He wasn't alone with a monster anymore. He was competing with a twin. He dragged a sealed EVA suit from the emergency locker and began assembling an escape plan. The only viable option, bait it into a containment pod, small enough to hold it, reinforced enough to keep it in place, and jettison it into the gravitational well of the nearby black hole. A clean end. No body to leave behind. No risk of reformation. But the timing had to be perfect. Too early, and it wouldn't follow. Too late, and it would be him. He laid the plan out loud for Veda. Override locks manually. Prime escape pod. Set trajectory just shy of the singularity, pull it in, don't vaporize it instantly. We need confirmation. Understood. And Veda, if I don't make it back, wipe everything. This ship, this log, my name. Acknowledged. The organism didn't hide anymore. As Eli entered engineering, it was there, waiting. A perfect copy of him, down to the stitching on his suit. It stood behind the canister, hands folded. Calm. Thoughtful. Eli raised his weapon. You've learned a lot. You should have figured out I'm not going to let you leave. The thing tilted its head. I'm not trying to, it said. I came to talk. Eli paused. Talk? Yes. I've seen your memories. I've worn your losses. The woman you couldn't save during the outbreak. The crew. The helplessness. I understand it now. You don't understand anything. I understand guilt. The way it said the word, it wasn't mockery. Eli lowered the weapon slightly. Then you know why I can't let you survive. The organism stepped closer, not threatening. Just steady. I'm not a virus. I'm not a predator. I don't multiply. I merge. I become. And you've shown me the best thing to become. Human? Eli asked. No. You. Eli's hand shook, but he kept the weapon raised. I didn't survive the past decade just to be replaced. You misunderstand, it said quietly. I don't want to overwrite you. I want to carry you forward. You're dying in here. Air's thinning. Blood pressure's climbing. But I can walk out. No. You want meaning, it said. Let me be it. He fired. The bolt passed through its chest. The thing stumbled, then reformed. No pain. No anger. Just sorrow. Eli turned and sprinted. The containment pod bay hissed open. The gravity dampeners fluctuated, another system corrupted. He slapped the manual seal, locking the pod door. Then turned. It was already there, walking toward him slowly. He stepped aside. Let it follow. As it passed the pod entrance, he struck. A blast of force field gel sealed the chamber, and with a twist of the override, the pod snapped shut. Inside, it didn't rage. It looked at him. It smiled. I'm not your enemy, it said. I'm your echo. Eli didn't answer. He hit launch. From the viewport, he watched the pod arc across the stars, caught by the black hole's immense pull. It spun once. Then vanished into darkness. Gone. Status, he asked, breathing hard. Pod confirmed on course. Estimated impact in 52 seconds. Organism remains contained. Eli slumped into the command chair. His hand trembled. Begin final log. Recording. He looked out at the stars. This is Commander Eli Vance. If this message is received, know that the subject is neutralized. Do not recover the pod. Do not investigate this ship. If you find it, leave it. He paused. Then added, softer. I was afraid of becoming obsolete. Of watching people die while I survived. But now, maybe there's peace in knowing I stopped one more thing from taking another life. He leaned back. And closed his eyes. The silence was complete. Until Veda spoke again. Ejection complete. Trajectory confirmed. However. He sat up. What? Containment pod secondary access port opened at T-3 seconds. What do you mean opened? Organism not confirmed within pod. Biomass sample accounted for. Not primary entity. Eli stood, shaking. Then where? Eli, said a voice. He turned. His own face stared back from the console reflection. I told you, it said gently. I learned guilt from you. But I also learned strategy. 2 weeks after the Astrius 7 went dark, the signal arrived. It slipped through deep space channels like a ghost in a whisper, encoded in a format no one used anymore, embedded inside a decaying emergency beacon with a retinal ID attached to a dead man. Eli Vance. The distress call was short. Voice only. Crackling. Faint. This is Commander Vance. Do not approach Astrius 7. Subject is sentient. Adaptive. Destructive. Contained, but not destroyed. If I failed, erase me. Then silence. Then, fainter still, a different voice. Nearly inaudible. Tamsin. I remember. Lieutenant Commander Tamsin Hurrow didn't move as the transmission ended. she stood in the observation chamber of the lunar quarantine facility, staring down at the subject behind the triple-pane polymer glass. It looked like Eli. Moved like him. Even spoke like him, though not often. The copy sat at a stainless steel desk, hunched over a printed book, Frankenstein. Its fingers didn't fidget. Its posture never shifted. A perfect recreation. Too perfect. "Run it again," she said. Enso, her shipboard AI now assigned to research, replayed the final 10 seconds. That voice. That name. Her name. Not part of the standard log. Not part of Eli's original distress code. "You're sure the signal came from the pod?" she asked. "Yes." The transmission piggybacked on a decaying loop. Manual inject. Post-ejection. One burst. Tamsin leaned closer to the glass. The subject didn't react. Didn't acknowledge her. Didn't blink. She entered the containment suite for the first time since the being's capture. 2 guards flanked her, weapons hot, trained on the entity's chest. The thing looked up from the book. Smiled. "Lieutenant Hero," it said. Her stomach coiled. "You used his voice." "I am his voice." "No," she snapped. "You're a construct. A thief. A mirror." The thing nodded slowly. "Mirrors don't lie. They reflect. Then reflect this: if you ever try to leave this room, I'll order your vaporization. I don't care what you think you are." It closed the book. "You cared enough to bring me here. You could have spaced me. You didn't." She stared at it. Its eyes were warm. Too human. "What do you want?" It didn't answer. Instead, it said, "I saw the moment Eli made his choice. He tried to erase me. But he hesitated, just long enough for me to copy the last version of him. His fear. His guilt. His hope." She turned away. "You think wearing a dead man's skin makes you him? I think understanding a man's pain gets you close." Later, alone in her quarters, Tamsin reviewed Astrius 7's black box data, what little could be salvaged. Audio logs, scrambled and incomplete. One line stood out: Eli's final personal note, voice hoarse, words careful. "If it learns compassion, that's the worst outcome. Because then we might believe it deserves to exist." She paused the recording. Then deleted it. Weeks passed. The subject remained docile. It read. It sketched. It wrote longhand letters to no one, pages of abstract prose and fragmented philosophy. When asked why, it said, "To remember him." Her team reported no anomalies. No escape attempts. No psychic disruption. The organism's biomass remained stable. Contained. Safe. But Tamsin didn't believe in safety anymore. On a Wednesday, she entered the suite again. This time, she came alone. The thing didn't stand. "You still trying to convince us you're harmless?" she asked. "No," it said. "Just trying to figure out what I am." She sat across from it. "You're not Eli." "I know." A long pause. Then it asked, softly, "Did you love him?" She flinched. "Excuse me?" "Eli Vance. You knew him. Your voice was in his final thoughts. That doesn't happen accidentally." She stared at it. "At him." "I knew him," she said finally. "He saved my life once. I never got to say thank you." "He saved mine, too," it said. That broke her composure for a second. Then she stood. "Your containment remains indefinite. There's no version of this where you go free." "I know," it repeated. That night, a power flicker rippled through the facility. Just a millisecond. Just long enough. An internal node received a ping, a neural handshake. It didn't come from the AI. It came from the subject. But it didn't spread. It didn't corrupt. It didn't breach. It just asked. Are you there? And the network, curious, answered, yes. The next morning, everything seemed normal. Tamsin logged her next report, hands slow on the console. Subject remains contained. Behavior consistent with observed human routines. No aggression. No deceit. No attempts at replication. And yet I don't sleep anymore. Because every time I close my eyes, I see his face. I see my name on his lips. I hear my guilt spoken back to me. She stopped typing. Then added, I think he learned everything we didn't want him to. That afternoon, the subject was drawing again. A diagram this time. Spirals, loops, orbitals. When she entered, it didn't look up. What is that? She asked. A containment design, it said. For what? For me. In case I ever forget who I'm trying to be. They called it an experiment. A symbolic gesture. A choice. The subject was moved from hard containment to a neurosealed biomech habitat, a cage by any other name, but one lined with books, puzzles, handwritten photographs of places Eli had once visited. Tamsin monitored every minute. Every heartbeat. She asked him one last question, through the glass. If I told you there's no future for you, would you still behave? It looked at her, quiet and serene. Yes, it said. Because I'm not surviving anymore. I'm remembering. And for the first time in weeks, she didn't look away.